So Shaheen, the black in his deck is for 2 Inquisition of Kozilek, 2 Thoughtseize, and 3 Lingering Souls, and 1 Vindicate main deck.
Looking at Michael Hedrick's deck, pretty normal looking blue-white Stoneblade deck.
Yeah, he has 1 main deck
Wrath of
God, it's what to note, and also 2 Relic of Progenitus in the main deck.
He's also playing a Jit and a Batterskull main, as opposed to one or the other.
Now both players start with Flooded Strands. Shaheen is going to activate his at the end of Michael's turn. And Michael will not, I guess. I see a Spell Pierce for Michael, among other blue cards. There's a Daze in there. Looks like 2 Spell Pierces, Daze, a Fetch Land, and I can't make out the rest. He might have had a Snapcaster Mage as well. Shaheen's going to play a Stoneforge Mystic.
He's going to go grab himself a Batterskull here.
Well, if it resolves, I'm assuming this is going to get dazed. Michael taking his time to decide. Stoneblade, I've always considered Stoneblade to be not a good deck, just personally. I've not really liked it for the last, I don't know, 6 months. I feel like it's like 45% against the field, and you can only sort of take edges like sparingly because there's not a lot of play.
Oh, there's a ton of play to it.
In Stoneblade, there's like 2 equipment you can go get. There's like a bunch of counter spells, and that's about it.
No, you usually just only get your, like, I only play Batterskull. I don't play Jit. I don't know.
Now the Esper
it's a hard brain. It's a brainstorm deck with like more shuffle effects than any other brainstorm deck.
Sure.
It's definitely a skill tester.
So Daze from Michael on the Stoneforge Mystic. He then replays his Tundra that he searched for. Shaheen's going to use Inquisition of Kozilek. Michael is going to counter that with a Spell Pierce. He then wastelands Tundra and passes back to Michael. With 2 lands in play, and Michael has no permanents.
Putting your opponent on no permanents, generally pretty good.
Pretty good. Shaheen now Thoughtseizing. This is probably going to resolve. I think I see that's Spell Pierce, Spell Pierce. There we go. Spell Pierce, Spell Pierce. Click, click. Snapcaster Mage. Glacial Fortress. The old Glacial Fortress.
Yeah, I mean, earlier today we saw people playing Drowned Catacombs.
Yep.
And now people playing Glacial Fortress.
I like it. I mean, it's usually a free roll to run like 1.
Yeah, I mean, it helps you like get out of choke and things like that. So
I'm not sure why the fast lands aren't better personally, but it's close.
I mean, a lot of like you want to be able to play your Jace.
Sure, in this sort of deck, if you're playing Jace.
Yeah, and it's not like you keep one-landers with these decks. Like people who keep one-landers with Brainstorm are not playing this deck correctly.
Correct. So he's going to take one of the Spell Pierces and pass it back. Glacial Fortress from Michael and pass. Ponder off the top for Shaheen. He also has a Lingering Souls in hand.
Like Lingering Souls is very strong against Michael's deck. Now, I mean, Michael is pretty behind at this point.
Yep.
He is playing a... Michael's deck is better in the late game in many ways, though. He doesn't have the discard spells that make Shaheen's deck kind of sputter out in the later parts of the game. But in the same way, like, he doesn't have Lingering Souls, which is very strong in the late game. So we're going to have to see what he can come up with to deal with a card like that.
Yep. Shaheen playing his 4th land. Michael got wastelanded and did a Daze, so he's a little behind on, and he was also on the draw, so he's a little behind on the lands here. He also just doesn't have a 3rd land, it looks like.
Yeah, that Daze and the Wasteland from Shaheen have put Michael pretty far behind in terms of mana. When you're playing a match that's like this, that's a pretty big problem.
Lingering Souls from Shaheen Sarani. Will this be met with a Spell Pierce, perhaps?
And I think it will be. He kind of has to.
Yeah.
And
If he lets this resolve, it's fairly over, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean,
with the board presence and untapped mana next turn.
It's really rough for Michael because not only is he going to have to counter it now, but he's going to have to counter it on the comeback. So he's going to get 2 for 1 by the Lingering Souls no matter what.
Yep.
And he's just forced to do it because of how powerful it is against his deck, because his deck's just X1s and Stoneforge Mystic.
Sure.
But
both these decks, interestingly, playing one Wrath of God effect. Shaheen has a Terminus, and Michael Hetrick has an actual Wrath of God in the main deck, which is very interesting to me. So that gets countered, passing over to Michael. Did Michael draw another land?
no, he drew a Wog,
Aha.
a Wrath of God
Yes.
for those who don't call
for
it
those
Wog.
uninitiated.
Yes.
That's terribly awkward for Michael.
And Lingering Souls will get flashed back. And then Shaheen will attempt to play an Umezawa's Jitte, which will resolve in all likelihood.
With some counters on the board, there they are.
The spirits become pretty good when Umezawa's Jitte gets involved.
When carrying a Jitte.
And Hetrick's gonna have to
Finally found that land.
some sort of.
He is going to play a Vendilion Click, however. His choices are Batterskull and Swords to Plowshares.
And
So what would you do there?
I'd take the Batterskull.
Yeah, I would too. Especially now that you tapped out.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have much. Maybe you don't take the Batterskull. It's a little weird. I mean, you're gonna Wrath next turn if you draw your land anyway, and if you don't, you kind of just lose.
Yep, so he took the Batterskull. Shaheen is going to draw a
Stoneforge Mystic.
Stoneforge Mystic. Well, classic.
Yeah, and that's the Stoneforge Mystic is so much better than the Batterskull was.
Yeah.
Because he gets to equip the Jit, and yeah, now it's just bad news bears.
That's quite a card on top of Shaheen's deck there.
Yeah, Stoneforge Mystic, powerful spell.
Quite a card. So there's the land for Michael if he wants to Wog. Not sure that it's really worth it because Shaheen can just drop the Batterskull again next turn while Michael's tapped out. Michael's already displayed that he doesn't have Force of Will.
Yeah, I mean, things are looking pretty rough for Michael at this point.
Michael has Wrath of God, still a Vendilion Click, a Snapcaster Mage, and I do not know what the last card is.
An interesting part about Shaheen's deck is that he's playing 2 Umezawa's Jittes.
Yes.
Presumably so that if somebody legend rules and, trades Jits,
Yep.
when people do that, they normally think that the Jit game is over.
Yes.
And if you have 2 Jits, the Jit game is not over.
We're looking at a close-up of the graveyard there of Michael Hetrick. There's another Vendilion Click. Shows Batterskull and Swords to Plowshares. I think we've seen that before.
Yes, we have.
And it's another Swords to Plowshares. I thought it was another Stoneforge Mystic for a second.
So Hetrick has Shaheen down to a Swords to Plowshares, a pair of them in hand.
Yep.
And
one... there's a Jace off the top. That's a pretty good one. That resolves.
yeah, this is not one of the closest games I've ever seen in my life. At this
yeah,
point.
at this point, it's
She's ran away with this
all
one.
over but the shouting.
Shaheen getting to be on the play and having that Stoneforge, and Michael really only having a Daze to answer it. That put him behind by 2 land drops because he was on the draw. and then Shaheen had the Wasteland,
Yes.
which made Michael miss some land drops, and then Michael just fell too far behind. So Polluted Delta, grabbing a Scrubland.
The one of Scrubland in Shaheen's deck.
Aptly named Scrubland.
Yep, correct. Yeah, now the Wrath of God isn't even good enough to do pretty much anything with a Jite that has 3 counters on it, a Jace that has 3 counters on it. I suppose it will stem the bleeding. Michael's still
Hetrick's gonna
not.
have to get pretty creative if he's gonna win this one.
Thoughtseize on 2 Snapcaster Mages.
And a Brainstorm.
Shaheen deep in thought there with his Brainstorm. Do you think that he should start ticking Jace up here?
No, you just keep brainstorming.
Just keep brainstorming until...
Yeah, I mean, like, you're too far ahead to... Like, ticking Jace up is fine if you've got, like, a hand with multiple counter spells and your opponent has absolutely nothing. But at this point in the game, if you just start taking Jace up, then Michael just has really good draws and you don't.
So Snapcaster on Inquisition of Kozilek for Shaheen to empty Michael's hand of Snapcaster Mages.
Oh, Shaheen does decide to start taking
Shaheen did.
What was the discard spell? Oh, the Snapcaster. Oh, well, now that he had the Snapcaster, the discard spell, now Michael actually does have literally nothing.
Yes.
And now you can take up your Jace. Jace the Mind Sculptor, everybody. 2 colorless, 2 blue. A Planeswalker that starts with 3 loyalty. You may +2 Jace the Mind Sculptor to look at the top card of a player's library, and then you can put that card on the bottom of that player's library. For 0 loyalty, you can Brainstorm.
Yeah.
For -1, you can unsummon something, and for -12, you remove somebody's library from the game and replace it with their hand.
And like if Michael Hetrick has no cards in his hand, like he does now, that means he's got no library, no hand.
How many games have you lost when you've ultimated a Jace?
I have seen someone lose a game when they ultimated a Jace.
I lost the game when I ultimated
because
a Jace.
they ultimated Jace, and in response, the player Metalworker Staff of Domination his library into his hand and then put it back down. That's the only time I've seen it happen.
That's way cooler. I lost after I ultimated a Jace in Standard in the finals of a PDQ to Nick Spagnuolo.
Jeez.
He like engineered it so perfectly. That's when I realized that he was very, very, very good.
Nick Spagnuolo, notable master of Magic cards and invitational finalist.
So in for 8, Michael.
And then there's
deciding that this is all for naught.
Yeah. So after game 1, Shaheen Soorani has taken down the first game of the Battle of the Undefeateds here in round 8. After this matchup, only 1 player will be undefeated going into day 2. The loser of this match, of course, not in terrible shape. Still probably in the top 2 or 3 or 4 players going into day 2. Well within range of making a run at the top 8. And so, turning to the sideboard, Shaheen Soorani has some Spell Pierce action, has another Inquisition of Kozilek, has Surgical Extraction. Now, do you think you bring in Surgical Extraction?
No.
Probably not. I've seen it happen where the people bring it in for the sole purpose of getting Brainstorms.
That seems pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a dead card. Surgical Extraction loses, like, if you put Surgical Extractions in your sideboard and you're sideboarding them against decks that are not graveyard decks, or like Life from the Loam decks, that card is going to lose you more games than it is going to win you.
I agree.
I see people sideboard that card against so many decks and just constantly lose because of it.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to refresh the stream real quick. We have a bit of audio delay. We'll be right back. And we're back. So far, Shaheen Soorani has won the first game in this match between Shaheen Soorani and Michael Hetrick. Two very strong players playing to be the undefeated player at the end of day one here.
That's right. Going 4-0 in Standard and 4-0 in Legacy, and being the only person out of the field to be able to boast an XO record.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big deal.
Only one will remain.
Only one. That's right.
Yeah. And there may end up being no completely undefeated player at the end if these players draw.
That's true. They absolutely could draw.
Or they could get extremely angry at one another and get into a fight and then both get DQ'd.
Yeah, well, that's also a possibility, I suppose. However unlikely an event it may be.
I highly doubt that either of these people would ever.
Yeah, Michael Hetrick and Shaheen Soorani, not the most likely people to get heated.
Not the most pugnacious individuals I've ever met.
Both quite calm.
Very nice people.
Just look at them shuffling. They're both quite okay. Not happy, I would say, but it's intense, stern.
Yeah, no, I mean they're definitely having fun, even though their faces say serious mode.
Oh, absolutely.
This is what they love.
It's Magic the Gathering. How could you not be having fun?
Magic the Gathering is one of the most fun things you can do.
Agreed.
So, Shaheen Soorani, he finished in the finals of the Richmond Standard Open playing Blue-White Control. He top 4'd the Richmond Standard Open playing Blue-Black Control, and he top 4'd the Invitational in 2012.
Right, where the top 8 was Legacy format.
Yep.
Shaheen, as you can tell, known for blue-based control decks.
Yes, likes to play controlling decks.
Yes. Very much like Ali Antrazi in that way, in which they even in a format in which control may not be the most obvious deck, they always try and strive to find a way to play one.
And I appreciate that. I mean, control decks are really, when it comes down to it, you eventually kind of become the best decks.
Yeah, eventually.
In most formats.
Yes.
Like once formats shake out. But that's the thing, is the reason control decks become the best decks is because you know what you have to beat.
Yes. And also, the bigger the format, the better control decks become, which is why in the summertime they're often the best decks, because two full sets have come out, whereas in the fall you've got a full set and then just the first set in a block. The more card pool you have, the better the control decks become. So national champions often are control decks, and that's why summers are better for Shaheen, typically.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Michael Hetrick is going to toss his back. Never peek, Michael. What are you doing?
He's not allowed to do that on Magic Online. So
that's right.
In real life, they let him do it.
Oh, fair enough. Just this once, we'll let it slide. Shaheen looks like he's going to keep his.
Now, Michael Hetrick with the rabbit chase.
Yeah.
Need to call him out on it. Now, if you don't like your opening hand,
yeah,
but if you drew a certain card, it would be pretty good, and then you decide you want to mulligan, do you look at the top cards of your deck to see whether or not you would have drawn it?
No, I never look.
I always look. I'm brutal.
No, you can't.
I'm a sucker.
Man.
I love it.
Look at this hand. Look at this hand Michael has. 4 lands, 2 Force of Wills.
That's not a good hand.
He's going to keep it, though.
I don't even keep Force of Will in this matchup.
Shaheen is going to
You can keep Force of Will in against the Thoughtseize deck? But maybe I'm wrong. I guess I'm probably wrong, because Michael Hetrick's so much better than me.
Looks like Shaheen has also brought in the Sword of Feast and Famine from his sideboard. It was on the bottom of his library. And Thoughtseize did happen. 3 lands, Force of Will. That's what was revealed. 3 fetch lands, I should say, Force of Will.
Yeah, now,
Top deck's a Batterskull.
My argument against Force of Will is that if those 2 Force of Wills, if either of them or both of them were literally any other card in the 75, except for cards that are obviously not ever going to come in here, they would be better.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been, I'm looking at the list, that would have been better off as every other card. No, maybe not. Like the Flusterstorm. don't know.
No,
Maybe
probably would have been better.
Fluster Storm
If
would've been
it's
better
a
too.
Fluster
Yeah,
Storm.
I suppose. I see your point.
A lot of people also just never sideboard out their Force of Wills.
Yes. There was another fetch land drawn that turn, so we have lots of fetch lands for Michael Hetrick. Shaheen not applying a ton of pressure right now, but that can soon change as this is turn 3. So he can be possibly playing a Lingering Souls or a Stoneforge Mystic this turn.
Now, what are you going to get here?
Or perhaps more discard.
An Inquisition.
And got him.
The whiff. Now, Shaheen just did a Force of Will himself.
Shaheen missing a land drop.
Oh, I mean, Michael could pull ahead this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael has lands and spells. Shaheen, not as many lands. A few too many spells.
That's a good one.
And it has a wasteland in it, so...
Brought in a Surgical, too. Huh. At least one. I'm really interested. I'm actually going to definitely talk to Michael after this match about how he sideboarded.
Yeah. Now, the Surgical might also be for the Wasteland, when he can Wasteland his opponent's duel and then Surgical the duel away.
Not really, though. I mean, it's like Shaheen has like Scrublands, Underground Seas, and Tundras.
Sure. I was just pointing out the possibility of the line of play. I honestly don't know what the reason would be for, except for Brainstorm.
He's just going to hit Brainstorms. Or, like, the problem is you can't even upkeep to try to hit a Brainstorm, though, or draw a step, rather, because then your opponent can just Brainstorm a response.
Right.
But now that Shaheen's on one land and missed a land drop, I think you definitely Surgical a Brainstorm, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, because, I mean, maybe not.
There's a fetch land for Shaheen.
So, Michael gonna crack another fetch land?
Shaheen's in no rush here. All he needed to do is just sit back and wait for lands to come to him. He's got all the business he needs in his hand. He just needs lands. Michael, on the other hand, needs spells that do things as opposed to counter things and deal with things that are already in the graveyard. Although, I guess Michael brought in Surgical Extraction for Lingering Souls, possibly.
You know what? Surgical Extraction from Michael is actually probably good. Shaheen doesn't want Surgical Extraction against Michael, but
yeah,
Michael definitely wants Surgical Extraction against Shaheen. I was kind of just brain farting out thinking it was a Stoneblade Mirror and not remembering Lingering Souls.
Not remembering the Esper part.
Yeah. Because Lingering Souls is just too strong against the blue-white version.
Absolutely. There's a Stoneforge Mystic from Michael Hendrick.
And another land.
Yep, that's the 4th land that we knew he had. I think we knew he had 5, but I think he put one back and then shuffled everything away.
And now Michael's got a bit of a decision here.
Does he just want to?
For it?
I think you do go for it. I think you throw out the Stoneforge Mystic, although he's going to pass.
Okay.
Looks like.
Actually, I don't mind that play
he's
either.
Also got
it's pretty close.
Vendilion Click in his hand, which is what's going to happen now.
That's actually just better than casting the Stoneforge.
That'll provide a little bit of protection. Also provide some pressure should Shaheen decide that it can stay in play and not interact with it or save something for the Stoneforge Mystic. Shaheen is going to look for some answer to Vendilion Click in response, or perhaps just hide things away on the top of his library. He picks up the Intuition. There's Vendilion Click for you. It's a 3/1 Morningtide creature. Legendary Fairy Wizard for colorless blue-blue. When it comes into play, look at target player's hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. If you do, that player reveals the chosen card, puts it on the bottom of his or her library, then draws a card. So it's important to note for a couple things about that. One, that it has flash, so you can play it in your opponent's draw step, end step, combat step, any of that. Two, you look at target player's hand, so you can choose yourself. And so when the trigger occurs, you choose a target, and then there's another response period. Third, it causes the player to draw another card. So even if you get rid of the card and put it on the bottom of their library, they still replace it with something else. It's not just purely discard.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, V-Click made somebody discard cards.
Oh, of course.
It might actually just be the best creature of all time.
Absolutely.
Then. It's already up there.
It's already close.
It's probably.
I wasn't saying that people forget
15.
to do that, but I'm just saying
top
that
15 creatures of all time.
It is important to note that you're not. It's not double advantage there of.
The card's actually worth a lot now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was not at the beginning. People were not playing Vendilion Clique in standard fairies for a long time, for example. Mm-hmm. But now it's extremely good. So Michael's going to make him shuffle away whatever Shaheen hid on top of his library, it seems.
Seems reasonable enough.
I assume he's hitting Brainstorm here?
Yeah. The cards in his graveyard, the discard spells are pretty
useless.
Are getting to the point where they're really decreasing in value. So Shaheen tanking over this one.
All right. Shaheen has Swords, Marsh Flats, Intuition, Spell Pierce, Swords, Snapcaster Mage, Vindicate. It's an interesting hand, to be sure, for Shaheen. It's a nice close-up of his hand. And it is Brainstorms that were removed. Michael getting to see how Shaheen sideboarded. There's the Sword of Feast and Famine we just passed, among other things.
Shaheen's deck looks like it's awesome against all the Grizzlebrand decks.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, so extracted Brainstorms. Now,
so this is still Shaheen's draw step. He's just drawn, I suppose. So he'll have 2 mana with which to do what he pleases. I'm not really sure what his options are, though.
Swords to Plowshares and the V-Click's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then he, I mean, I think Shaheen's super far ahead right now. Because, I mean, he's going to Swords that V-Click.
And he's going to be able to Swords the Stoneforge Mystic should Michael play it.
Yeah, but the big thing is that he has Intuition for Lingering Souls, and Michael spent the Surgical already.
Yeah.
And if you Intuition for Lingering Souls against Stoneblade, and it resolves,
he's going to
you
put
win.
The Inquisition on the bottom, or the Intuition on the bottom, I imagine.
Yeah. So, yeah, the V-Click hadn't resolved yet. Okay. So, never mind.
Right.
I think it's still very close. I do think Shaheen is ahead, though.
That's another land for Shaheen. He has 4 total. 3 in play, 1 in hand.
Shaheen is casting an Upkeep Swords to Plowshares.
Yep.
A nice time to do that. It's before your opponent will have, or before Michael will have an opportunity to draw a Spell Pierce or anything. But if Michael already has some type of counter magic, it forces him to tap the mana.
Yes.
So that Shaheen will have
But he doesn't. The fairy is far from the board now. I didn't even see it leave. And here's a Stoneforge Mystic.
No.
Now,
so
both players know that Shaheen still has another Swords to Plowshares. He also has the Vindicate in hand.
Batterskull.
Yep. So I think that Shaheen is definitely going to. I think Shaheen's definitely going to Swords this Mystic in order to force Michael to tap out for this Batterskull so that it can get vindicated.
Maybe Michael won't do that though. Michael won't tap out for it. Michael will just sit there forever. He's in no rush. So, yeah, now Shaheen finds himself another Tundra. And I think you're right. I think he's going to Swords to Plowshares this Mystic.
Is he going to Swords it now, or is he going to wait until he can play around Spell Pierce?
I think he just does it now. I mean, at this point, he knows every card in Michael's hand, because Michael only has 2 cards left.
Right.
That's true. He saw the Force earlier, and he's aware of the Batterskull because he searched for it with the Stoneforge Mystic.
Right.
So he doesn't really have to play around anything.
Yeah. And there it is. Michael going to go back up to 20. Shaheen at 14 life from Thoughtseize and various fetch land activations, among other things. This is going to be a Snapcaster on Thoughtseize to snag the Batterskull. And finally put a guy on the board. Shaheen has the Sword of Feast and Famine in hand now.
That's weird for Michael. Michael's a Jace in hand, but the only creature his opponent has is Snapcaster, so it doesn't really do much.
There's a Sword of Feast and Famine.
Michael going to have to hard force this.
Yeah. So that he can hard cast this Jace the Mind Sculptor next turn. Has to hope Shaheen does not have a counterspell.
Yeah, if Shaheen has a counterspell here, then Michael's in a really bad spot.
There's Sword of Feast and Famine.
And again, Michael has been on the mulligan both of these games.
That's true. Michael is going to fetch 2 lands.
He goes ahead and grabs a Tundra and an island.
He's going to hard cast the unused alternate casting cost on Force of Will of 5 mana.
Yes. I'd say I actually cast it for 5 mana more than I cast it for its alternate cost.
Really?
Yeah, I'm so... I hate removing a card from Force of Will. Like the only time I ever remove a card from my hand to cast Force of Will is if that card is going to win the game by itself.
Right.
The only time
like Garland Charbelchers and things.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Spell Pierce from Shaheen.
Yeah, and now
Force of Will. Here's the Snapcaster Mage gets in for 2. So Jace gonna come into play. Going to Brainstorm, finding a copy of itself.
Yeah, not too bad.
So
I mean,
probably
still pretty bad, but
still not great. Probably going to put that other Jace on top of his library and keep Force Counterspell of some kind.
Yeah, Force Spell Pierce, and then the Jace will die to the sword, but yeah, it's pretty bad for Michael. So, Sword of Feast and Famine. It's picked up by the Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster gonna take care of that Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Of course, the effect on Sword of Feast and Famine not taking effect because it hit a Planeswalker and not a player. Another Jace in hand for Michael Hentrick.
So, let's see another Brainstorm here.
Same old ability. There's a Swords to Plowshares to be able to take care of the Snapcaster Mage.
And just like that, Michael is back in this game now.
He sure is. If he finds himself a wizard with that Riptide replicator,
Riptide
Laboratory,
Yep.
he's going to be in
Laboratory.
business. That's right. Ooh. Vindicate on Jace is met with Force of Will. Stoneforge Mystic is going to go search for an equipment of some kind, a Batter Skull.
Yeah, now Michael gets to go 4 cards deep and see if he can find something here. Or he can bounce the Stoneforge, but bouncing a Stoneforge kind of weird,
great,
you know?
It's not ideal.
You're losing parity if you do it. Alright, so Michael draws for the turn. Knows what his card is. Gonna have to mull over his options here. Also knows the top card of his library. So we'll get to see 2 more new cards.
Brainstorm and Caracas are added to the 2 cards that he knew already of Riptide Laboratory. And is that the Wrath of God?
I believe that is that a Wrath or is that a Disenchant?
Oh, it could be. I suppose it could be a Disenchant.
Yeah, it's old card frame.
White bordered. Doesn't look like Wrath of God to me. I think you're right. I think it is Disenchant.
Attention Magic players, Corbin Hustler.
Right, so,
one more deep will get a spell
stage.
pierce.
Corbin Hustler to the Invitational stage.
Putting the 2 lands on top. Passes the turn to Shaheen. Now, if that is the Disenchant, then it has an answer to this Sword of Feast and Famine equip.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is.
There's the
Disenchant. Passes the turn because he only has 4 mana.
Another Brainstorm for Michael here.
There's the Wrath of God and his own Stoneforge Mystic.
Not too shabby. And,
Also a
Shaheen,
Caracas. Still. Just in case.
with just a Batter Skull at this point, basically. Jace the Mind Sculptor is a powerful, powerful spell.
Sure is. Quite good. There was a while where Jace the Mind Sculptor was pretty much the only thing people were doing in Legacy. It has obviously changed since then, but still quite a very powerful shell, especially when piloted by very good players.
You know, I am actually a Mind Sculptor also.
That's true.
Yeah. A lot of people mistaken my Twitter handle to mean that I'm a middle schooler, but I'm
Jacob
actually
Van Lunen, the middle schooler?
Yes, I am. I'm not a middle schooler.
Ah.
Don't listen to them.
I won't. I will be sure to not listen to them. Those people who say that. So Michael has played out his Riptide Laboratory. He has Spell Pierce and Wrath of God in hand. Shaheen has an active Stoneforge Mystic with a Batter Skull in hand, but is facing down his opponent's Stoneforge Mystic that went and got an Umezawa's Jite.
Another Stoneforge for Shaheen.
Another Stoneforge. This will also probably get a Jite. Now, this is where the 2 Jites come into play, as you said. He has 2 in his deck to be able to Legend Rule the first one, and once everyone else thinks that the Legend ruling is over, he's able to go get another.
Now you can attempt to Jite equip here, or he can just pass the turn. Passing the turn is the safer play, but it's not really correct to ever make safe plays when your opponent has a Jason pit play.
Yep.
So
sometimes you just have to go for it.
He's going to Jit equip. He's going to get Jit counters. So, quick cursory glance of the removed from game pile and the graveyards.
If those are some of you out there are just tuning in, you're watching Star City Games Live, StarCityGames.com and SCGLive.com. I am Ruben Bressler here with Jacob Van Lunen. We are in round 8 of day 1 of the Invitational in Indianapolis, Indiana, where Shaheen Soorani and Michael Hetrick are the 2 remaining 7-0 players, and they are battling it out to see who is going to be the last undefeated. And Shaheen Soorani has just put an Umezawa's Jitte onto the battlefield by casting it, in spite of the fact that he had an active Stoneforge Mystic in play.
Well, now you can still use the Stoneforge activation to put the Batterskull into play.
Right.
So, that's definitely going to be relevant for him.
Michael Hetrick with a Jitte of his own in hand, along with a Snapcaster Mage and a Wrath of God.
Yeah, so, just going to continue brainstorming with Jace, I think.
Yep. Just keep drawing cards. Oh, he's going to look at the top card of Shaheen's deck.
Okay, so
add a little protection.
That's reasonable. He knows about the Batterskull. Gonna disenchant that.
Snapcaster Disenchant on Batterskull. Attempting to equip a Stoneforge Mystic.
Now a Umezawa's Jitte.
Shaheen has a Disenchant of his own in hand, by the way.
Not going to be very good against the Disenchant that Michael has, though, which is an uncounterable legend rule.
Right. And there it is. Shaheen does have one other Jitte in his deck. Is it in his hand? Is that what that card is?
That would be quite good if that was...
I believe it is.
Alright, so another brainstorm.
Snapcaster, fetch land, Vendilion Click.
Yeah, so, I mean, drawing more Snapcasters is always what you want to do.
Yep.
When you're playing Stoneblade.
He's got the Laboratory in play too, so he's got all the reusable effects. There is the other Jitte. Michael all out of answers. For now, at least.
Yeah, he's going to have to find some way to deal
now,
with this.
Now, what he can do is he can block with the Snapcaster Mage, and before damage is dealt, he can return the wizard to his hand.
Yeah.
So that'll prevent the Jitte from ever getting counters.
So we can just keep it off basically forever with the Riptide Lab and Snapcaster.
Yes. That's going to take a lot of mana.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most mana intensive.
So Michael is attempting to respond to Shaheen activating the Stoneforge Mystic. He has Vendilion Click, so he may attempt to Vendilion Click in response to the Stoneforge Mystic activation to put the Jitte on the bottom. But he is not doing that. He is surgically extracting something. Jitte, he's surgically extracting the Jitte. It's already in the bin.
Very nice. Well done, Michael.
Yep.
Good read on that.
Very nice.
And now it's kind of looking like this match is going to be a draw.
Yeah.
I have a very hard time believing that we are going to finish this match in 50 minutes.
I would have it. Well, they have longer. They have 55 for the Invitational.
55 for the Invitational. You're right.
I still would have a hard time believing.
I mean, this has been a great game.
It has. This is really well played Magic. There's a Vendilion Click from Michael.
Lots of back and forth.
Showing a Inquisition of Kozilek freshly drawn and a Disenchant. Neither of which particularly good right now. What with Michael being empty-handed and having no artifacts in play. We're going to send in the Squires. One Squire will block another Squire, and the last Squire will tick Jace down a peg. Michael's going to go get another land. He looks moving much quicker now, as he senses that he's much more in the driver's seat, having activated Jace 3 or 4 times in a row, unmolested.
Generally a pretty good thing.
And that's another Jace off the top, so he can feel free to do what he's... Yeah,
just in case Jace.
Yeah. It's the Justin Jace. You can keep it. Probably one of the most depressing things that can happen in a game of Magic. Your opponent plays a Jace. You can keep it. Shaheen decides to scoop him up. We're going to head to Game 3 with about 9 minutes left on the clock.
No, I mean, hypothetically, 9 minutes is enough. Obviously, they play a game like that, 9 minutes.
Yes.
Not going to do it. But Game 1, I don't think was longer than 10 minutes.
I agree. If one of them can get an early Stoneforge Batterskull without anyone being able to do anything about it, for example, is one good way to do it.
Yeah, that's one aggressive way to take it down. Shaheen could also just have Lingering Souls draw.
Yeah, that's true. He could have Lingering Souls on turns 3, 4, 5, and 6, and just, or 3, 4, and 5, I suppose, would be the best way to do it.
Now, Michael, I believe that is a Magic Academy. Is that what that is?
That's what it looks like to me. I'm not sure.
Magic
That
Online?
the
owl?
the electric owl from the original Clash of the Titans. You're big on the t-shirts today.
Yeah. I love it. So
Sea-
earlier, the Seawolf, I actually made a mistake. So White Winter Hymnal is actually by Fleet Foxes, who I was listening to a lot at the time that I was also listening to Seawolf.
I see the foxes and wolves could mess
And
you up there.
but I did listen to a lot of Seawolf's one album that has the song on it, You're a Wolf.
Oh, I do know that song.
That song's awesome.
That song is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So those of you at home, Jim Davis, who is currently X1-1, he was wearing a shirt earlier that said Seawolf on it.
Yep.
So I was talking about the band Seawolf.
He was wearing a shirt that said, "What's a sea wolf?" And
Now it turns out that I also did not know what a Seawolf was, though, because
What is a
his
Seawolf?
shirt, even though Jim is in a band and plays a lot of music, plays guitar, that's why I assumed that it was about the band Seawolf. Jim, his shirt is actually in reference to Stony Brook College
oh,
in New York, where he goes to school, and they are currently
in the national finals for baseball.
Yep,
Yeah.
World Series.
Fantastic.
for college.
Stony Brook is a school about half an hour west of New York City. Is that right? Maybe an hour west of New York City.
Northeast.
Northeast.
So-
Northeast.
northeast.
Oh,
So
it's
I know
on
that-
Long Island.
It's yes.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I live like 10 minutes west of New York City, and it's on the other side of New York City.
I see.
But yeah, Jim attends there, and the shirt was actually in reference to their baseball team.
I see. Not the band at all. Now, what about does the band have a connection to the school in any way, or?
I don't know. That's a good question. We could look that up. Anyway, Seawolf, their album that had come out like 2 years ago was awesome, or it might be 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
You guys want to look it up? Look
I
it up.
remember that.
Listen to it.
I remember You're a Wolf. I loved the lyrics to that. It was real weird.
Yeah.
Talking about like a gypsy walks up to you and tells you you're a wolf and stuff.
Yeah.
It was really weird. I
was
really
awesome.
enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's not party music, but it's certainly driving in your car music. I like it.
You don't think it's party music? I actually
You're
last
a
time
wolf as party music?
the last time I had
about
people over
that
my
one.
house. That was the last
We're
time I
gonna
listened
run
to
out a Stoneforge Mystic on turn 2 for Shaheen Sarani. Michael has another Stoneforge in hand, but he's gonna dig for a Force Will, most likely. Found one, if he chooses to do it. We're being told that there are 5.5 minutes left in the round. The game you were watching between Shaheen and Michael, this match does not have an extension because we've been on it the whole time. So at the end of time, that'll be it. Stoneforge Mystic is met by Force of Will. Michael's
And,
probably going to try for his own off of 2 basic lands, and he gets it. Shaheen has another Stoneforge Mystic in hand. Interesting to note. There it is.
Another Stoneforge coming down. see, does Michael have any way to answer this? No, he does not.
So many Stoneforge Mystics.
Lots of Stoneforge Mystics on the table right now.
There are 6 Molten Swords.
I remember when Standard
Sticking
looked
up.
like this all the time.
Yep.
Stoneforge Mystics everywhere. That was the best.
Problem with that was that I simply refused to play that deck, so I was the guy playing Vengevines and things like that.
Yeah, no, I'm actually, even though I enjoyed playing with Jason Mind Sculptor and the Stoneforge Mystic, I'm very happy that Wizards decided to ban those cards.
Yeah, looking back on it, I'm okay with it. I was playing a lot of Birthing Pod at the time, so I had a really good... At the time, I felt like I had an insane matchup against the Stoneblade decks. But yeah, I think that for the quality of tournaments, like they were losing attendance
Pretty drastically.
pretty drastically. It's not like today. People still enjoy playing Delver. Delver is not nearly the amount of the metagame that Caw-Blade is.
And it also just isn't as dominant. Like
I agree.
you can beat Delver
Yes.
with just about any deck as long as like both players draw well. If you play better, things like that. Stoneblade, just the win percentage of Stoneblade versus every other deck that existed at the time was just there was too big of a difference for it to be
Yes.
fair.
There were so many shuffle effects. There's so many ways to guarantee that you would have the same game every game. It was a problem, and they solved it. Now check out the beat while the DJ revolves it.
Yeah.
This is the musical round, everyone.
The musical round. SCG Live, the musical.
That's right. SCG. Tune in for SCG karaoke after dark later. No, don't do that.
But it'll be on here.
It will.
It's an Easter egg. A lot of people don't know about it.
So Shaheen passes the turn. No Ponder. He drew a Ponder, didn't play it. Presumably to keep up Spell Pierce and activate Stoneforge in the same turn mana. Michael Hetrick did not put in... Oh, he did put in the Batterskull last turn. I assume he's attacking right now. Another basic.
He's searching up a lot of basics. His hand is pretty mana hungry, and
So here's a Vendilion Click in response to the activation.
I'm going to be able to take that Batterskull.
Yep.
A really tight play from Michael here, using those Vendilion Clicks to tremendous effect against these Stoneforges. One game two with that exact play.
Yep.
And that's something you don't see very often. It's something I've seen people miss on camera before. But at the Invitational, I haven't really seen many people miss things, which is nice.
Yeah. It's refreshing.
So Lingering Souls from Shaheen. Very good card here. But the Batterskull, it does
Much
trump
better
that.
card here, yes. Michael draws a basic land this time. Here comes a chump block from Lingering Souls.
If you're getting a Chump Block and Lingering Souls, you jam Jason Brainstorm.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's going to get Spell Pierced and Spell Pierced right back.
Yeah.
Michael is enjoying life right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like it's actually just the dream scenario that your
Yes.
opponent chumps there. So, and there's no way Shaheen could have known that, obviously.
Of
but
course.
as somebody who plays Blue-White Stoneblade a lot, I can tell you that I would have been so happy putting that Jason to play.
Especially with the Spell Pierce backup. Yeah. This is falling away from Shaheen in spite of the Lingering Souls. Michael did leave himself somewhat open to a Vindicate or a Disenchant by this play. But you know what? If you have one of those, that means you're only killing one of the permanents and not them both. And it's just as likely you don't have them. Always make them have it, especially when they're singletons. So we're gonna see.
And see how Michael got a basic as his first 4 lands? Shaheen had a Wasteland in hand the whole time. And that allowed Michael to, on that 5th turn, have the Jace with the Spell Pierce back up.
Shaheen's turn right now, everyone, is turn 1. So they are on turn 1 of extra turns. There are 5 turns total. So Michael's will be turn 2. This is attempting to have a Jace that's going to Planeswalker rule Michael's. Michael's still fairly in front because of the batter skull. Michael is on turn 2.
So Michael has a couple different options here. He can just attack with Batter Skull, or he can go Voltron mode.
Yep. He can attempt to Alpha Strike. Nope, it's just going to be the 2. A token and a click are going to trade, and the Stoneforge Mystic is going to chump block. Michael has a Snapcaster Mage in hand. Shaheen draws a land for the turn. Shaheen is on turn 3. Flashes back Lingering Souls. Looks like he has an Intuition in hand.
Ooh, that's a good one too.
Intuition's going to be able to go get 3 more Lingering Souls, representing 6 power of flying. Michael still has the trump card in the life-linking Germ, but
I think it's just going to be a draw.
I mean, it's looking like it's going to be a draw. Should the game continue, it is leaning towards Michael, but it's certainly not completely in Michael's favor.
Yeah, I mean, it could go either way.
Well, there's a surgical extraction for the possible
Okay,
intuition
now Michael would
shenanigans.
definitely win.
He has Jite and surgical extraction, so he's going to violin this Umezawa's Jite. That's going to take care of many a Spirit's token. He's also got the re-trump in surgical extraction, just in case intuition shenanigans get out of hand.
All right. Intuition coming down, and
Almost certainly getting 3 Lingering Souls.
well, he doesn't have 3 left.
Oh, he
does
doesn't have 3? I think he should have 3, right?
Well, he
He used 1, so he only has 2 left. So, what do you think? Snapcaster, Lingering Souls, Lingering Souls?
Well, you want your last card to just be. Is there anything else that right now? You want your last card to be like a good Snapcaster target if he doesn't have one yet. So like a Swords to Plowshares or something.
Or Disenchant?
Oh, he went with 3 lands.
Interesting.
Okay.
Just to thin his deck, I suppose. I guess they're going to draw.
Yep.
So Michael Kendrick and Shaheen Soorani are going to play to a draw here in the last round of the Invitational Top 8.